Now, of course, being a contractual relation, the partners also have their obligations amongst themselves. So that is our topic 4. For example, no, each of the partners, they have the right to associate another person in their share. So basically, no, what would happen is that a partner assigns to another person their right to their share in the profits, to their share in whatever the partnership shall give them. So of course, itong associate na to, ang tawag natin dito, subpartner. Subpartner, hindi naman siya part talaga ng partnership. Itong subpartner na to na tinutukoy natin, this is a third person, a person who is not privy to the contract. And this relation between the assigner na partner, and this associate, itong subpartner, ang tawag sa relation na ito, class, ay subpartnership. Now, of course, hanggang dito lang yan. No? This is basically just an assignment of right to the profits. Does that make the associate already a partner? No, of course not. The associate, kahit na subpartner siya, hindi siya partner. All right? I hope you get that. The associate shall not be admitted to the partnership without the consent of all the other partners. So again, what is our rule? A subpartner is not a partner and is therefore not a part of the partnership. However, by way of exception, a subpartner can be elevated to the status of a partner if the consent of all of the other partners is secured. Okay? If all of the other partners agree na, sige, let us include this subpartner among our ranks. At itong subpartner na to, from this point forward, siya ngayon ay partner na. Pwede rin yun by way of exception. What is the reason for both the general rule and the exception? Delectus personae. Hindi ka pwedeng pumasok sa partnership kung wala yung necessary element of trust and confidence. A partner, or every partner rather, also has the right to access, to inspect, and to copy the books of the partnership. So by partnership books or books of the partnership, ang ibig sabihin natin ito, we refer to the books, no, recording the business affairs of the partnership, the expenses, the assets, and the liabilities of the partnership. We refer to the books of the partnership in order for us to see how the partnership is faring, kumusta ang sitwasyon niya business-wise, gaano kalaki o karaming profit yung nakukuha niya, hindi pa ba tayo nalulugi, how many properties does the partnership own at present, how many employees does the partnership employ, no? Mga ganong bagay. So napakamahalaga na mababasa ng bawat interesadong partner ang books of the partnership. Now, where shall these books be kept? The general rule is, of course, at a place agreed upon by the partners. Of course, di ba, ultimately, a partnership contract is a contract. And pursuant to our rule on obligatory force of contracts, yung freedom to stipulate, as long as hindi contrary to law, public order, public policy, etc., yung stipulation, that stipulation will be followed. Should be followed in good faith. So, if the partners agree upon a particular place, dito itatago yung books of the partnership sa isang warehouse malapit sa Port of Manila, then that shall be where the books should be kept. Now, of course, by way of exception, if there is no stipulation in the partnership contract kung saan itatago o kung saan ide-deposit yung mga books, then the books of the partnership shall be kept at the principal place of business of the partnership. So alam na natin yung where. Ngayon, susunod nating tanong, when? When can a partner invoke the right? Article 1805 of the New Civil Code gives us the answer. Ang sabi, any partner can invoke the right to access partnership books at any reasonable hour. Now, the Supreme Court in its 1925 decision in the case of Pardo versus Lumber Co., GR number L-22442, explained this provision. What does any reasonable hour pertain to? According to the SC, this phrase pertains to reasonable hours on business days. So ibig sabihin, pag reasonable hour, we have to take into account the business or office hours of the partnership. Kung conventional business, that would be 8 to 5, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday to Friday. Kung BPO yan, might be that the business days or the business hours are longer and the business days may or may not include weekends. Ngayon sa bangko, the business hours pwedeng Monday to Friday, di ba? Pero shorter, no? Some banks operate from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'm not sure if Banco de Oro operates on weekends. I think the branches of the bank situated in SM malls, I think they operate on weekends. I'm not so sure. Pero if so, ibig sabihin, that's a reasonable hour on a business day. So long as the office is open. Basically, yan in all practicality, no? In actual practice, yan ang benchmark. Bukas ba yung opisina? Hindi pa ba masyadong gabi para dito? That is how we determine if the hour is a reasonable hour on business days. Of course, by business days, excluded normally, like I said earlier, excluded ang weekends. Unless if the office is open on weekends. Excluded din, of course, ang holidays. Hindi pa pwedeng December 25, pupunta ka at magde-demand doon sa principal place of business, for instance. Yung magde-demand ka na that you be given access, no, to the partnership books because you want to read it on Christmas Day. Of course, that's not possible and that's not allowed under the law. Hindi rin pa pwedeng bagong taon pupunta ka o di kaya Biyernes Santo o di kaya All Souls o All Saints Day. That won't do. That is not allowed because again, reasonable hours on business days. Related to the right of a partner to access partnership books is the right to a formal accounting. Normally, this happens when the life of a partnership is approaching its end. We will be talking later about what we call dissolution. Ay, hindi muna natin ito i-define ngayon. We will be getting into that later. But basically, this early, all that you should know is that when the partnership is dissolved, a partner now can invoke a final accounting. Kasi patapos na yung buhay ng partnership. Now is the time to determine one last time how much by way of assets does the partnership have, or how many creditors does it have? Gaano kabigat ang liabilities nito? Yung final accounting na yan, pwede lang niyang hingin o i-demand ng isang partner once the partnership has undergone dissolution. Now, of course, there are exceptions to this. General rule lang yon. There are special and unusual cases outlined in Article 1809 of the New Civil Code, which allow a partner to invoke the right to an accounting even before the partnership is dissolved. I want you to take note of these 4 special and unusual cases. Of course, bilang exception nga ito, ibig sabihin ito ay hindi normal na nangyayari. Situation number 1. If the partner invoking the right to an accounting is wrongfully excluded from the partnership business or possession of its property by his or her co-partners. Balik tayo dun sa kwento ko sa inyo kanina about Paramore. I think this is one of Jeremy Davis's prayers dun sa kanyang kaso filed against Paramore. Kasi nga sinasabi niya, he was kicked out of the band and therefore wrongfully excluded from the partnership. So he demands an accounting. Kasi gusto niyang malaman kung gaano kalaki o gaano karami doon sa partnership profits yung talagang rightful na para sa kanya. So that's situation number 1. Situation number 2, if the right exists under the terms of any agreement. Basically, anong ibig sabihin nito? The partners stipulated in the partnership contract that a partner has the right to an accounting even before dissolution. So of course, again, Obligatory force of contracts, freedom to stipulate. If the parties stipulated to that effect, then of course they have to follow that stipulation. Next situation, if without his or her consent, a partner has derived profits from any transaction connected with the formation, conduct, or liquidation of the partnership, or from any use of partnership property. Nangyayari ito minsan pag mayroong mga under the table na mga transactions yung partnership. For example, one of the partners, no, may narinig siyang chismis na itong kanyang co-partner may kinita sa isang transaction na hindi informed o hindi approved ng lahat ng mga iba pang members ng partnership. So, questionable transaction. In that case, no, the aggrieved partner has the right to an accounting. Kailangan nating malaman magkano yung kinita dyan sa transaction na yan. Magkano yung, gaano kalaki yung wini-withhold nitong ating co-partner, not only sa partnership, kundi sa lahat ng mga partners. Kasi di ba ultimately, the profits of the partnership after making the necessary deductions ay i-distribute, no, yung net profits, i-distribute sa mga partners. So if one of the partners is not being honest about a particular transaction or about a particular series of transactions, it is only fitting, it is only just for the other partners to demand an accounting. Kailangan magbilangan tayo. Magkano ba yung itinatago mong pera sa amin? And finally, no, the final scenario is where there are other circumstances or situations that render an accounting just and reasonable. So if there are other scenarios, if there are other circumstances similar to the three scenarios we mentioned earlier, kapareho, that would justify an accounting. Pwede rin siyang gawing basis. Pwede rin siyang mag-constitute na special and unusual case. Of course, the right to demand an accounting prescribes upon the dissolution of the partnership when the final accounting is done. According to the Supreme Court in the 2001 decision in the case of M. Nase versus CA, GR number 126334. So, as a rule, no, balikan natin. Let us wrap this up. As a rule, a partner can demand an accounting only when the partnership is dissolved. By way of exception, Article 1809 of the New Civil Code provides that there are special and unusual circumstances or cases wherein a partner can ask for an accounting kahit na hindi pa dissolved ang partnership. However, at any rate, whether we apply the general rule or the exception, once na matapos na yung final accounting after the dissolution of the contract of partnership, there can be no further accounting anymore. Tapos na. Once the final last accounting is done, at dissolved na yung partnership, there can be no more invocation of the right to formal account. Kaya nga final accounting ang tawag eh. Pag natapos yan, no more accounting.